The F-14D Super Tomcat is a brand new rank 8 premium for the US tech tree, but if you haven't been living under a rock for the past month since its announcement, you'll know all about this aircraft and why it's so controversial. To keep it short, it should not have been a premium and should have got better missiles. I want to start this video off by saying that for the average person, unless you have the spare cash or you simply cannot go without getting the F-14D, most people should avoid purchasing the Super Tomcat. Naturally, people are going to be still purchasing this no matter how much the community is against it and tried to boycott it. Therefore, I thought it would make the most sense to give an honest review on the F-14D and whether or not it's worth it for the people who are either on the fence or we're going to buy it anyway. Full disclosure as well, I've not finished the US tech tree, so therefore within War Thunder I've never used a Tomcat, but I have heard people endlessly meat ride this airframe like their life depends on it, so my expectations were very high going into this thing. After all, it is an F-14B with a better radar slapped onto it, so what's the worst that could happen? Jumping into the weaknesses of this aircraft, this is probably going to be the longest part of the video. It's an absolute doozy. For armaments, the F-14D gets the AIM-54C+ Phoenix missiles alongside AIM-7Ms and AIM-9Ms, the latter of which were not originally going to be a part of the loadout until the community kicked up a fuss as they rightfully did and got Gaijin to add them to the F-14B and D. The selection of missiles you get combined with the battle rating are really what ruined this jet. You were quite literally flying a 12.7 airframe with a better engine at 13.0 with a 12.3 loadout. The Phoenix missiles, even after the buff, are still not viable compared to what you come up against, no matter how many posts on Reddit you see claiming this buff is going to make them super overpowered. In the F-14D, you're coming up against more often than not 13.3, 13.7 and 14.0 jets, as well as plenty of 13.0 jets that absolutely dominate you. Whilst you sit there in BVR range launching your Phoenixes into orbit and praying the enemy is stupid enough that they don't notch in the 3 minutes it takes to get to them, a Su-33, which as of this recording is currently on a sale, will just launch all 6 of his missiles at you and your team that are made up of F-14Ds, and then he'll be laughing all the way to the hangar with the 6 free kills he just picked up. After the repetitive climbing to between 5,000 and 8,000 meters, launching off your Phoenixes and then diving down into the notch as you desperately try to avoid all the RVVs, Micas and AMRAMs, you'll come to realize that running a full Phoenix loadout is not the move and you should probably try the Sparrows instead. This is all fun and games until you realize that at 13.0 in this airframe, you're without AIM-7Ps and you're left with the classic 12.3 battle rating AIM-7Ms instead. These can net you some shorter range kills, just don't lose your lock on any of the super maneuverable, easy to notch aircraft that you come up against and you'll be fine. So you've given up on the Phoenixes, the Sparrows are frankly useless at this battle rating compared to what your opponents will be running, so you're left with AIM-9Ms, meaning at 13.0, a battle rating where you commonly see RVVs, Micas and AMRAMs, your only real viable consistent armaments are the 4 AIM-9M IRCCM missiles. The trouble with this aircraft lies solely on the battle rating it's been given, combined with the lackluster loadout. There's no AMRAMs and frankly you get a mediocre 12.7 F-15 radar with no helmet mounted sight targeting. For all intents and purposes, you're a 12.7 jet at 13.0 with a 12.3 loadout, which is horrible by itself, but when you consider the sale is on right now, and with people hunting for the down tiers because this jet is so popular, you're just going to be shredded by everyone. There are a couple good things about the F-14D. The airframe itself is really fun to use and can keep up with other jets on an up tier in terms of both maneuverability and speed. It's real fast with its wings folded in, and then in a turn fight with its wings stretched out, you'll find that you can outturn quite a few jets. If you run all 4 AIM-9Ms with the countermeasure pots, you not only get 4 AIM-9Ms, which can be powerful if used correctly, but a whopping 700 total countermeasures you can split between both chaff and flare. Given all the dodging and weaving you'll be doing in the F-14D, it does come in handy and means that you can spam countermeasures to your heart's content. Most importantly, out of everything, you get some pretty wicked skins for the F-14D, whether that be the edgy black and red pre-order Vampires camo, the Tomcatter's camo featuring a little fella on your tail, or if you want to go for something a bit more off-kilter, the Anytime Baby skin gives you this green and beige colorway. All of these skins are really neat, and no matter what I or anyone thinks of this aircraft, it does have some immaculate drip. On to the less important stuff though, let's talk about the loadout options you have for this thing and what I would recommend after trying pretty much every combination of air-to-air armament. For the cannon, you get a Vulcan. Due to the sheer amount of trigger time and the high fire rate, it has unrivaled ease of access compared to something like the Russian 23mm cannons or the Defers. The missile loadout is really where you see a lot of problems with the F-14D show up. You get the AIM-54C+ Phoenix missiles. These are active radar homing missiles with both IOG and data link. They're incredibly slow compared to the other Fox 3s in the game, and whilst you can launch them off at high altitudes in hope of getting a kill on someone, they do need to be doom scrolling TikTok and ignoring the immortal snail in missile form slowly edging towards them. I'd recommend against using the Phoenixes for BVR, and instead I urge you to use them within about 20k's, as although this is not ideal for their intended purpose, it will force people into a defensive flight whilst you hunt them down, making for much easier targets. If they decide to multipath, you can usually get kills with the massive explosion radius of the 54C+. plus. You can run up to 6 of these missiles, and if your playstyle consists of playing them as a BVR missile, this loadout will work alongside the 2 AIM-9Ms. The next missile you get is the AIM-7Ms. I've no clue why Gaijin didn't provide us with AIM-7Ps for the F-14D. At the 13.0 battle rating, it would have made them much more usable in comparison, and would elevate the F-14D to new heights for me personally. The addition of IOG and data link would have made such a huge difference in comparison to what we have now. The AIM-7Ms are bog standard Sparrows meant for 12-3 aircraft. Don't expect anything special from them. Like the Phoenixes, you can run a total of 6, but you can mix and match running either 4 Phoenixes and 2 Sparrows, or vice versa. Finally, for air-to-air combat, we get the AIM-9Ms. These are an all-aspect IRCCM missile with a 30G pull. If you launch these side-on, they're more or less a guaranteed kill and become increasingly difficult to flare the closer you are. You can equip 4 of these with countermeasure pods as well. For base bombing, the best loadouts are running a combination of Zunis and JDAMs, so it's not the mindless drop 3 firebombs and move on loadouts that you're used to when it comes to something like the F4S. In terms of ground, I don't have anything at 12.0 in the US ground tree. I'll probably pick up the clickbait at some point, so I couldn't test it for this video, but you do get JDAMs and the Paveway 3 GNSS guided bombs, which I've heard are quite effective within ground if you can get past all the Russian pansiers mowing you down. This leads me into what I think is the most ideal loadout for this aircraft. For me, it's the 4 AIM-9Ms with the countermeasure pods, then either 4 Phoenixes or Sparrows depending on your playstyle. Let's talk about the strategy with this loadout. Like any loadout, this is going to depend on your playstyle, but I find if you avoid the initial BVR 5,000 meter altitude hellhole and then try to get behind enemy lines, you're going to get close enough to where the AIM-9Ms are extremely efficient, and then you have 4 Phoenixes at your disposal to either launch at unsuspecting enemies that aren't actively trying to notch and chaff it, or you can launch them closer range where the Phoenixes will initiate dogfights for you and force people into awkward positions. This will set them up for cannon and AIM-9M kills. Depending on how the initial BVR engagements have gone, you can choose your altitude accordingly, and you can play very defensively in this jet due to its 700 countermeasures. You get these by running the 4 pods with the AIM-9Ms. Don't be afraid to use these countermeasures and climb as high as you want. I can't offer a one-size-fits-all strategy with this aircraft like I have with others, because frankly, each match can feel so different in the F-14D depending on who's on your team and who your opponents are. Your best bet is to get a feel for it and see if you prefer going for a start of the match BVR launch before a transition to low altitude AIM-9M hunting, or if you have no luck with the Phoenixes, you can always switch to the Sparrows. The only other thing to mention regarding strategy is the carrier spawns. Due to speed and altitude being a massive factor when using the Phoenixes for BVR, if you're running them with the intention of launching them off at the start of the match, do not spawn on the carrier. If you're going for a more lower altitude game plan headed into the match, then most of the carrier spawns will get you where you need to be a tiny bit faster. As mentioned before, because you need to use a combination of guided bombs and Zunis to base bomb effectively, I would not use the F-14D as a base bomber, but instead a pure fighter. If the tone of the video wasn't already super obvious, no, I do not think you should buy the F-14D under any normal circumstances. I did not have a fun experience in the F-14D, and it makes me question why people go out of their way to specifically grind the other Tomcats, if these are the problems you have to deal with whilst using the tech tree versions, let alone paying 110 Australian dollars or 80 US dollars. You can pre-order Grand Theft Auto 6 right now for the same price as one of the worst rank 8 premiums in the game. That is how expensive this jet is, and despite the community's attempt at a boycott, I've seen so many of these premiums in game, even entire matches filled with only F-14Ds. The boycott did not work whatsoever, and going off one of my last videos, it falls back into my overall point that the community cannot agree on anything. To reiterate, I bought the F-14D purely to make a video on it, and I cannot stress this enough that if you are not obsessed with this aircraft, or you do not make any sort of content on the game, do not buy this. It's an especially silly decision when you take into account the summer sale is currently on, and instead of the F-14B, you can pick up 2 jets for the price of 1. You can pick up the FA-18C early for half the price and get a rank 8 premium for the US tech tree that's both versatile and honestly has better armament than the F-14D. If you already have one of the premium Hornets for another tree, pick up the F4S or the F5C, both are infinitely better aircraft. Honestly, I think if the F20A and the AV-8B were available, you'd have a better time using those instead, despite them being considered less than ideal for their battle ratings. In short, don't buy the F-14D. For the same price, you can get a premium Hornet and the Su-30 and call it a day. Alternatively, if you're adamant on getting one of the new packs, get the new F-16AM. It will offer you far greater value, as at the very least it has 6 AMRAMs. Then on top of that, it's also the first rank 8 premium for France. Hopefully I didn't go too hard on the F-14D for my Tomcat enjoyers out there, but until they give it either AMRAMs or at the very least AIM-7Ps, this is quite literally one of the worst rank 8 premiums in the game, and outside of the novelty of it being a Tomcat, you don't really get anything out of it. Let me know what you want me to cover next. I have a couple more premiums in the pipeline due to the sale, but I'm working on some tech tree vehicle videos as well. Anyway, don't buy the F-14D, have a good one, and goodbye.